Hello, everyone. This is Lear, better known as Cynthia Cologne, and I'm joined here with Rhiannon Chatnoir and, of course, our mastermind, Sun Tzu, for our AI and art workshop. And of course, Sun asked me to open with a brief history of AI. This is going to be very brief. First, I wanted to show you where I live in Second Life these days. I went down from 3 regions to this little patch of water with a TARDIS, a boat, a dock, and a Nautilus on the other little island, and that's it. So I do all my design work in these spaces, very small, very lean, and that's the way I think about the world. For AI history, in 2011, Sun Tzu gave a series of workshops for the IEEE in Second Life, and it was spread over a 4-week period. And it was right when the 120,000 people signed up for the course from Stanford from the 2 notable authors. And Sun Tzu worked up this slide that I featured also at the SL Languages Conference, in case you were there that year. And of course, we've been thinking about computing for a very long time. And you'll notice in the document that he has shared with you that there's a lot of facts and a lot of interesting moments, but I don't want to talk about those. I want to talk about people and how they make decisions, right? And that's really what's interesting to us, is when we create art or when we use it to generate any kind of decision, right? It's the decision process that's really interesting to us. And of course, it caught the imagination of the world when IBM Watson played Jeopardy. How many of you were at that, were able to see that episode? I'm going to look at the chat and see if anyone's chatting over here. Anyone see the Jeopardy Watson episode? Were you surprised by the double Jeopardy bets? I know I'm asking you to think back. Now, I never saw a replica of it. I saw it when it was live, and I thought about it. And of course, I play Jeopardy, right? And I thought about how cautiously it wagered at the final Jeopardy, because most of us know that if we have more than 2 times the money of anyone else, of the other contestants, we know that we can bet up to $1 less than half, right? And make out like a bandit. And of course, Watson was answering most of the questions correctly, but it bet something like $452 or some very low amount when it was in the tens of thousands. And that may make you wonder as to what is the decision criteria that IBM Watson's going through. Well, let me tell you another little story, and then we'll move into the heart of our topic. I was at the ELK conference, that's the E-Learning Consortium of Colorado, and the vice president of the IBM Watson team was there. He was sitting next to me, right? And we were talking about their research. And I don't know if you know this, because they're keeping it a little quiet, right? But he announced it publicly, so I feel fine telling you. Okay? And what he said was that they are currently in an ethnographic study, which means a study of people, kind of like the Truman Show. Anyone remember that movie called The Truman Show? That's where you follow the life of a person and they don't necessarily know they're being studied, early in the process. And in this study, they are working with middle schoolers, I think. I don't know what age group, but they said early education. And they're going to follow them from cradle to grave. That's a long study. What do you think? I was trying to imagine writing the IRB for it, which is the approval to work with human subjects, right? Because normally you only get a year to study people once it's approved here in the US. But they're going to follow them throughout their lives. They obviously have parental permission. And so it's going to be IBM Watson's going to be their study buddy. Now imagine if you had an AI who did everything with you as you went throughout life, and then also into the workplace after graduation from college. What kind of impact will it have on these students? So it's a very interesting study. And to me, that brings us up to the heart of our topic today. Now, I'm showing you my avatar here, not because I'm vain, but because that's how I look in Second Life at this time, right? And so I played last night till about 2:30 in the morning, and I pretended that I'd never touched any AI system in the past. And of course, I have done no AI art other than a little bit of Mid-Journey with with Rhiannon about a month ago. So let's take a look. On the left, that's my avatar in Second Life at the Virtual Ability Conference, right? And of course, I'm wearing hair someone else produced and skin and everything else. And I'm a classic avatar, which I know a lot of people go, except for Beth and Joyce and Sun. On the right, that's AI art generated. And, you know, I was listening to Art Blue's comments during his session and during Julietta's session when she talked about the way you could tell the difference between AI art and, of course, other forms of art or even our photographs. Can you tell what's wrong with me in the image on the right? And by the way, I created this with stable diffusion. I first tried to create it, and this is a warm up for Sun, who's of course going to orient us on quite a few tools. When I first created this and started using it, I started using it in Blender, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not a Blender guru. I would like to be one. I've joined all the right groups. I'm in CG Cookie. I've been, you know, working with it for years. The problem is time and attention to detail, right? And of course, that artistic eye. So what's wrong with, yes, Dave's got it. Yep. So what's wrong with the image on the right? For the recording, we will share that. Look at the eyes. You know, they're not just the windows to the soul. There's something a little wrong with them. And of course, you're not seeing any reflection. You're not seeing the light, you know. There's quite a few elements that really should be there that aren't. But anyway, I thought it was interesting because look what it did for my hair. It actually looks a little bit better. It actually looks like the way life, you know, thin in spots, you know, and curling around your arms. It expresses, the one on the right, how I feel about hair, you know what I mean? Where it wraps around your arms while you're typing, where you go to reach for things and you're pinned, you know, where you have to lift it up to lay down at night, you know. And that's the experience of hair. And that's what I think is interesting about AI art, is it's capturing some of that experience of what it feels like to have long hair, right? Regardless of any notion of beauty or aesthetics, that experience is what interests me. Now let's see. And here's something more traditional, so you don't think, she's hopelessly vain. On the left, that's a very famous painting of the quarrel between Oberon and Tatiana. And of course, the author's name is now escaping me. Whereas on the right, that's what AI art did with that. So I used it as a source document. I put in some phrases, you know, to prompt it, right? And of course, in some of my prompts, I would say realistic, or I'd say oil painting, or I would say like Da Vinci, you know, who's a famous portrait, you know, is well known for his portraits, right? As well as everything else. And of course, I was fortunate to spend some time at the National Gallery of Museum of Art in DC. I used to pretty much live there because I love art. And so the one on the right looks a little gruesome, right? They're having a really bad quarrel, but but I just thought I'd share this with you. Now, I do have images of me with like my hair on the face of a horse, which is hilarious, right? Some of the merging of thoughts as you go through these cycles. And of course, we're going to play today, but I'm going to turn the floor over to Sun Tzu and say goodbye to the sunset here. And I'm going to stop the share and pass the floor for the rest of our workshop. Over to you, Sun.
Okay. Hey, thanks. Do you hear me okay?
Yes.
You sound great.
Okay, so share sound, and I want screen 2. Okay, so you should be seeing that, hopefully. Is it showing the art?
No, I see.
Are you seeing a GitHub?
AI render.
Yeah, we're seeing your table of contents, your index.
Okay, yeah, so you're seeing the GitHub. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was on the right thing. All right, let me go back to my lesson plan here. Trying to figure out how you get all these windows everywhere.
And while Sun is talking, I'll type in the text chat so you get a little backstory, okay?
Okay. All right. First thing I wanted to show you, a lot of you have picked up Blender at one time or another. Maybe some of you have only created a cube. I think we've all been there at least once or twice, maybe more. But Blender actually, when it comes to doing AI art, you can do some pretty incredible things. So I'm going to show you is there's an AI render plugin for Blender, which you can download the plugin. Now, if you haven't already, there's a link that was posted in the chat that gives the lesson plan for today. So as I'm talking about all these various things, if you want to get your own copy, you can go in there and all the links are there for you, so you don't have to wait till after the class to start playing with the toys. All right, so this one is called the AI Render plugin for Blender. You can download it either on the GitHub, which you see here, or then there's also this one, which is called Blender Market. And Blender Market, you have to actually sign up for an account and be approved. And you can purchase it for free, or you can give them a donation. They show all the way up to $10. So if you want to support their effort, you have that option as well. What this does is it gives us a way to render and modify that in ways that apply different art styles. So I'm going to show you the video of it, but first I wanted to give you a little bit of a tour. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll show you the video first and then I'll give you the tour. So let's see, hopefully you guys will hear the sound okay. If you don't, let me know.
Yep, we hear sound.
Okay, so you can go ahead and download that at either Blender, either the GitHub or at the Blender Market. I'll even post these links for you in here because I think it's one of the really cool ones to play with. So as you can see there, you don't have to know a lot to do with Blender to be able to work with it. I'm not going to go quite as in depth as they went on theirs, but I'll show you here. Everybody's seeing my Blender screen, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you download the zip file and you might have to sign up for, or you have to sign up for an account if you go to Blender Market, but then you're also going to have to sign up for the API key. You'll download a zip, and then you're going to come here into Blender and check the version. The one I'm using is 3.12. You can use different versions, but just make sure that your version works with the plugin. So we go to Edit on Blender. It's the second one in the pull-down menus here, and you want to go to Preferences at the bottom. And then there's the thing about in the center here, so on the left, it says Add-ons. So these are all the plugins. You have an Install button up at the top here of the Blender Preferences, and you just find that zip file and you say Install that add-on. Now, I've already installed it. Once you install it, you still have to activate it. So you see here how I have some that are checked and other ones that aren't checked. So only the ones that are checked are usable. So this one is a renderer. So I'm typing the word render. You can see it here. And they have documentation, bugs to report, setup instructions, tutorials. And then they have down here a place that says sign up for Dream Studio for free. You simply click on this button and it'll give you an API key, which you paste into here. And then once you're all done here and you got this activated with a check mark up here, then you say save and load. because anytime you're making changes to your preferences, you have to save them, and you close out. And now that's all it took to install it. So it's not really hard to get set up, and it's even easier to use it. The biggest problem is the one that Joyce is going to be getting into with us later on these AIs, is how you fine tune things and get it to do what you're specifically looking for. So over on the right-hand side here, you have a bunch of parameters for different things like your textures, your materials, your animations. We're going to go to one here that looks kind of like a TV screen. It's the third one down. Looks like a little TV screen with things on the right-hand side. And what this one says is it's render properties. So once I'm in render properties, at the bottom here, I have a thing that says enable AI renderer. So I click on that and cursor down, and then you just got to kind of watch for the prompts. So it's asking me, it says stable diffusion only works on certain image dimensions. And generally they tell you to use the 512 by 512 because they like to keep it small to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And don't worry too much about the sizing as far as it being small. They have other AIs that will actually take your image and make it bigger. I've seen some that go maybe as much as 10 times larger in size. And by the way, what is really, really strange, James, you could do that with video as well. I've seen videos that were resized by AI.
Mm.
The AI figures it out frame by frame and remakes it.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. So I enabled it. And then once I enable it, I have this part here for a prompt. And then there's also a negative prompt. So if you don't want ugly or bad art or something, you can put that in there. Then you got this cool thing here. It says apply a preset style. And I can see all these really cool styles to pick from. Or I can specify my own styles, much like Lear did with Da Vinci and some of the others. I'm going to pick this one here called Dan Mumford. Okay, and I can actually copy it here too if I want to paste in there. But I think once I apply it, that actually applies it to the thing. And then there's also some buttons here. There's advance. Here I can change things like the image similarity, how different I want it to be from one image to the next to the next. Right now it's at 0.40. How many steps I want it to take, the prompt strength and such. And I don't know all the ins and outs of these, but this is one of those things where when you really, in the random seeds, this is one of these things where when you start to really fine tune it, you got to research it and read up on it and get a good understanding of what each thing does. And just below that, you have operation, and there's a place here where you have two buttons, but these won't really work, I don't think, until I actually do my first renderer. Now, I can take the cube out of the space, or I can just leave it in. It's going to influence the artwork, obviously, if it's in there. I could also load a model in here. So if I wanted, let's say I wanted to load the OpenSim hippo in here, I could have that loaded in, and then if I do something about a hippo, it'll, influence what the hippo is going to look like. So I come up here to render, and I tell it to render image. As you see now, it's starting to put something into the image already. You can see there's like a car here and so somebody down at the bottom. What I'm going to do, I hadn't actually put anything in my prompt yet, hadn't described it. I want to see hippos dancing in the forest. I call it a fairy tale forest. See if that makes it a little bit more magical. We'll put magical in there too. And at the end, I'm going to put a comma and paste the style from Dan Munford that I got from above. Now you have to hit enter for it to actually take it. Otherwise you won't be able to scroll. And now what I come down is I come down to the operations again, and you have two buttons here. The first one is new image from last renderer. Okay, so that's going to give me a new image, a new render of it. The second one is new image from last AI image. What that's going to do is that's more fine tuning. So it's going to take the image I have here and just make some modifications to the existing image. So I'm not real satisfied with this one yet. So I'm going to click the top button. And sometimes you actually get it so it still doesn't do what you want. In a case like that, and I'll show you this too. Let me get the period here to bring this in line. This, by the way, are the nodes that it's using to do all this. So that just shows you what it's, the inputs and the outputs of how it's creating this image. So I'm going to keep going. We'll try another one. I got some pretty cool ones when I was playing with it earlier. So we can kind of start to see there's some kind of, we do see a forest here. There's still a cube in here. These are some kind of creatures. I don't know if they quite look like hippos yet. I'm going to try the second one where it's going to do alterations of this existing image, more fine tuning it on the bottom button. Okay, it's a little bit different.
Hmm.
Try one more and see what we get. You'll see they got the wheel going. Well, that's kind of cool. And see, you could actually, I mean, you could do this for books you're writing. You could do this for movies, animations, create backgrounds that you use for your storyline and everything. So that's pretty easy, wasn't it?
I don't understand it really. We had a box. I thought the box is textured with this.
No,
painting?
what it's doing is it's just doing this to a render layer. The box is influencing depending on what settings you have in here. I could take the box out, but if I wanted to put geometry in there, that would influence it. And then it also depends on how much I'm telling it to let it influence it. So I can change the controls as far as I want 40% of it to be influenced, or I only want 0.04% to be influenced, you know? It's just really easy to work with. I was surprised because Blender usually, for me, because I'm a Maya guy, it takes a little bit to figure things out. But when it came to the AI thing, I thought it was pretty easy.
So any of the 3D objects that you have in the file beforehand, it becomes a little like what Lear was talking about before with, she had a source photo she used as part of the prompt, basically,
Mhm.
to influence it. Yeah.
Correct. And I didn't have to have anything in there. I could have had an empty scene. You know,
Mhm.
but if I were to bring something in like you saw in the video before this, they put a thing with some basic geometric shapes to show like a water area with a house and the sun that was setting. That became much more artistic when they applied the AI to it.
Do you have an object in Blender where we can use this system on it? So because I see now just a scene, if I can do it with Midjourney similar to get such a scene. I mean, I didn't need the cube for it.
Well,
So if you
I
have
didn't
an
need the cube
object-
to make this either. I just left the
okay.
cube in the scene. That's all.
Mhm.
And you saw on the earlier ones, you could actually see a visible cube as part of the image. The more
Mhm.
it got translated again and again, it started to lose the influence of that cube.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? I didn't have to have a cube in the scene. I was just trying to show you that anything you have in the scene
Mhm,
is also
mhm,
going to affect it.
Mhm. Let's say you have an avatar, you have a rigged avatar, whatever it is, and you
Yes.
use this tool. How would it look? This avatar's skin or whatever?
I can't tell you.
Uh-huh.
You got to play.
Okay.
Simply bring it in there and
Mhm.
then go through like the steps I did here, which are outlined in one of the resources I listed as well. And
Okay.
it'll just walk you through it. You just do that simple install and you go down to this part in your rendering and you simply list the stuff in there. And then you got those two buttons. One will allow you to make brand new images. It's like you're trying all over again. It's like you're throwing the dice. The
Mhm.
second one's like you're just picking up one of the dice and throwing it. You're just
Yeah.
fine tuning.
Yes.
Okay. But if you want to make changes to it, you have advanced options here. This is where you can change things like the image similarity. If you want to make it really super different, how many steps you want it to take to get there. So more diversity to it, and the prompt strength and the random seeding. And I don't know all of the particulars of these things, but your best bet is it's just like with building an SL or OpenSim. You get in there and you play with it, you know?
Okay.
And ultimately the end result though is for what you're doing is like a 2D image that is influenced off the 3D if you want it to be, right?
Yes,
It's still
correct.
a 2D. Yeah.
It's got a 2D image, but it could be made into a 3D thing, which we'll see in a minute as well.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. All right. So that was using stable diffusion in Blender. Okay. And just so you know, Stable Diffusion, I think, has only been on the market for about 3-4 months now. So this is pretty new
Longer, but
technologies.
mhm.
Well, one of the things I was reading today was saying that. All right. This next one, I'm going to show you the film first, and then I'm going to walk you through the process. The link for this thing, it's 15 minutes long. You can watch him and he goes and he tells you all the stuff, but I'm going to give you a quick overview of what the steps were. But what he basically did is he made an animated short using AI technology. So instead of having a team that writes up a script, somebody that does the character design, the rigging, the animating, he let AI do all the heavy lifting for him. All right, so this is about a minute long AI short, and then we'll go over the process that he used. You ready?
What the devil is going on out there? Cambria, stop at this instant. I said stop. I warn you, Cambria. I'm not afraid to use this. I'm so sorry, child.
"911. What's your emergency?"
I just killed an ogre.
So obviously it was rather primitive. Okay, it's not going to compete with Pixar at this point. But again, some of this technology that they're using is like only within the last few months that it came out being publicly available. So think about this a year or two from now and where it's going. I mean, it's quite possible that AI shorts, animated shorts, might not be distinguishable from other ones, or might be of a higher quality than things that we're watching right now that are produced by big studios. Much like we saw in the gaming industry, the indies can give them a run for the money. Now, I'm just going to give you a quick walkthrough to go through the process. Like I said, if you watch that full video, I just showed you the tail end with the short, but the full video, he walks you through the process he used to make each part. First thing he did was he wanted to come up with a plot. So he went to this thing called Plot Generator, and it basically created a bunch of plots for him to pick from. And when he found one he liked, he went and took that. And then he went into this thing called the Beta Open AI Playground. And then inside of the, let me get down here. Inside of this, he did the screenwriting for it. So it basically wrote the scenes for him, where it put together what the visuals would be and what the audio would be for his entire short. Now, normally you'd have a team of people that write this stuff up. And then after that, he went to this one called Crayon. Formerly, it was Dolly Mini. Okay. And this makes the character, it draws the concept art of the character in a T-pose on a white background. He also used it to create the character's face, and then he used Photoshop to slap the two together, and then used another AI to upscale the image for a larger resolution. Then, Joyce, I believe you're going to talk about this later, Midjourney. So he also used Midjourney as he was putting together the concept art, as well as we'll talk about in a minute with the backgrounds. Then he came to this thing, PIFU HUD, or PIFU HD, excuse me. This creates a 3D model from one single picture. So he had the concept art of his ogre, and he basically used this to create the 3D mesh. It automatically made what it figured would be the back of the character and what would be the sides of the character, all off a front-facing photo. He did have a problem, though, when he went to make the ogres because of its green skin. So he changed the green skin color to of the character to a normal skin tone, and then he changed it back to green after he was done making the 3D geometry. Next, he went to this one. It's called Replica Studios because he needed voice actors. I think this one costs. I don't think this is open source, but you download the programs. This is more for like the gaming industry. It's used a lot. And you download the application like I have here. And I simply come in here and I say, don't hate me because I am an ogre. And then I can select a voice. And I can see what it sounds like. This is
How
Agatha.
dare you! Get your vile face out of my sight!
Okay.
You have no power here. We will paint this battlefield.
You hearing that okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Amber. I have an American accent.
We must have tripped an alarm or something. Look, I already told you.
I like that one. It's got a nice like European sound to it. So I'll select that and I say play and I'll take my words. Takes it a minute.
Don't hate me because I am an ogre.
Okay. So then I can download that audio clip and I can use it in my production. So what did he said? He did say that they didn't have many emotional styles though. So you didn't have a lot of stuff to really show emotion, unfortunately. Now there are some other studios that do it too, but this was one of the easier ones to work with, he found. Now the next thing he had was face rigging. He had to rig the face. So what they do is they have a face that's already rigged in this thing. It's called the Omniverse from NVIDIA. They have an audio to face application. And what he did is he mapped it so that he would take his face for the ogre, or his face in this case for the mother, and for the rig from Omniverse. And he would map it so you know where the corners of the mouth are, the eyes, where the nose is located, you know, some key points it would pick out. And that way the geometry of NVIDIA's face would come through in his character's face so that it would look like it was moving correctly. So the nice thing with that is if your geometry isn't perfect, it's still going to move nicely because it has a good rig underneath it. Then what he went to after that was the rigging and animation. And for that, he went with one you might be familiar with, Adobe Mixamo, which is free if you have an Adobe account, even a regular free Adobe account. And you can upload your character, which he did to rig it. And then you can also test it out with animations and download animations or characters. Then the next thing he did is he did his environments. And for his environments in this short, he went to Midjourney. He used that to create the environments. And then he used this app, which you might be interested in trying out as well, Joyce. It's called the 3D Photo Depth Map Generator. What it basically does is it's applying a mask onto your image, kind of like, are you all familiar with like a bump map or a normal map? Have you heard of that before? It's somewhat similar to that, or a displacement map you might know it of to like for terrain. What it basically does is it has white and blacks, light and dark areas to show things that are closer to you or further away. So it gives you the perception of 3D, even though it's still an image. And that was how he put that together. Next one I'm going to show you is, this is AI generated music videos. This is really cool. This Doodle Chaos used Disco Diffusion version 5.2 Turbo, where the AI mostly automatically creates the imagery from the lyrics of the song. So this is for the song called Canvas by Resonate. Bring it up here. I'm going to go through a little bit of what this is first, and then I'm going to start playing it. Images in this, I'll at least get to the beginning screen here. Okay. So the images for this are generated from text input. This does image generation with music synchronization. Since DALL-E 2 was not available to the public at the time that he was putting this together, his search led him to VQGIN and Clip. which is a vector quantized generative adversarial network and contrastive language image pre-training. Try to say that 3 times real fast. Before setting more specifically on Disco Diffusion version 5.2 Turbo. While this AI is impressive, it still required additional input beyond just the song lyrics to achieve the music video Doodle Chaos was looking for. For example, they added keyframes for camera motion throughout the generated world. These keyframes were mainly synchronized to the beat by Doodle Chaos. They also specified changes to the art style at different moments of the song. So you'll see as it plays, there'll be some times that the artistic style of it changes. And there's also going to be some times where it's like going in and starts coming back, or it starts turning to go in a direction. A lot of times that's when he was doing those changes to it. Since many of the lyrics are quite non-specific, even a human illustrator would have had a hard time making visual representations of some parts of this music video. So to make the lyrics more digestible by the AI, Doodle Chaos sometimes modified the phrase to be more coherent, such as specifying a specific setting or atmosphere for it. So we're going to take a look at this, kind of see if you can hear in the lyrics and understand how the AI is pulling the images and creating things, and then see if you can tell as the art style is changing as well.
Tuning out of starlight, the innocent lifetime flickers and flashes under a canvas. No, nobody seems worth it, while the feeling's sophisticated. The view is so restrained. The past is nearing closer and closer, I fear. So let's just cut the bullshit and tell me who's independent. Thumbs twiddling and your life's escaping your mind. Keep in mind, well, the air ain't as free as it used to be, but that's quite alright when you're still 18, it seems to be. And I'll tell you who's overrated. What's a beautiful person with some hideous dreams? Well, the lining isn't silver. We're verging on the side of the road that'll take us home. The edge of us is getting weighed. Read about your life in your local papers. Realize the end of us is getting near. You're just a droplet of paint trickled off your canvas. Delirious illusions flowing backwards through the river of color, while we analyze to try to see it clearer. Secretly appealing to a lonely prisoner. Now what's your vision? Initiate your shading, blend the universe together. In time it only gets a little easier. Suddenly piece yourself back together now. What's your vision?
I won't show the full thing, but I just wanted to give you enough of the breadth of it. Okay. But it's pretty cool. I definitely recommend, if you get a chance, the link's in the class notes, go through it. It is awesome video. To think that AI could make videos like that is just so impressive. All right, next one that we're going to move on to is AI generated music. Some of you may know this guy. This is a much younger version of him, Ray Kurzweil. He's known for the Singularity. He's been a leader in the AI industry for quite a while. This was back from 1965. I'm guessing he was probably a teenager, or his early 20s, maybe at the latest. But Kurzweil was on a show called I've Got a Secret. And he's going to play some music. And I just want you to hear this, and we'll talk about it. I'm just going to play the portion where he plays the music.
Here, as you see, and Raymond, in addition, also happens to have the
Yes, it's good.
happens to have a piece of music with him. And before we show the audience what his secret is, we have just a few seconds for Raymond to play this piece of music. Raymond, the piano's all yours. Very nicely played. And
So what he shares with them as the secret is that music was composed by a computer, not by a human being. I think there's going to be a lot of things when it comes to the music industry, when it comes to AI in the future. It's going to really change the landscape a lot. But it was interesting to see Ray back in 1965 design a computer that did that. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is AI 3D geometry creation from photographs and motion capture. All right, these are two pieces of software that I'm using, but I also want to show you how you're seeing similar things on your phones already today as well. So this one here is from Character Creator 4 from Real Illusion. And what it does, as long as you have the right kind of photo, it can create identical geometry to it. It's actually creating the 3D geometry to match it. It's not just a matter of the image. It's actually creating the geometry as well. And where the AI comes in is it understands things like the lips, the nose, the eyes, and how they move and how they're shaped. So it's able to tell what's what in the picture and assimilate that onto the model. The next one we have here, this is from iClone 7. And then this one is Live Face from a phone. You can see as he's making expressions, it's being mapped out onto the avatar. We have a similar thing like this now in Second Life that they're doing, where it's using a webcam to basically drive your avatar. That's is that the Puppeteer, Joyce? Yeah. Okay. So somewhat similar. I don't know if it's the same level of resolution, but some similarities there as well. But you also have it on your smartphones. All right, these are a few apps that I mentioned in particular. This top one is me. I was dressed up here as my as a character for Halloween, and then I used a program called New Profile Pic, and that created this version of me with the green and the blood and things and the moon and everything behind. But I had to understand the face and where the skin was and understanding the shape of things and what is important in the picture and what is not. Now, they also use masking tools that you can adjust, but for the most part, I've had pretty good luck with them where they mask things out correctly because the AI understands what's in the photograph enough. And this one I did of Joyce. That's Joyce on the left, and there's her Simpsons version of her in another universe. And then this one, we went to the Dickens thing today in Second Life, so I decided to do one of A Christmas Carol. This was in a program called Wombo Dream on my iPhone. So just wanted to show you that these things aren't just with the expensive software, it's also getting on the phones now too. I would encourage you after we're done to go ahead and, experiment with these things, bring them in World. If you care to share it with us, I've already posted some of my works up in the OSCC Sandbox. I have an area there set up for students to just go in there and post their stuff to be able to share it with other folks. Like this one on the far left here is one I did up for music. I just basically used the search term of a virtual music, and that's what it came up with. This one here on the top, I'm basically showing an iterative process using a filter more than once and seeing what happens with it. And then cats and dogs chasing each other. And the one on the far right was just a weird one I did. I called it the Dalai Lama. I wanted a llama done up in the style of Salvador Dali. I don't know if it quite did that, but
Dalai Lama, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and that's all I've got. If you have any questions, otherwise we can move on to Joyce's section.
More
Okay, it's all yours, Joyce. Yeah, let me stop sharing.
So I know this is a bit whirlwind, and we'll probably, the idea is hopefully we can play a little bit more on this side of things. And a lot of this is, we could go deep into many of these tools. And I know, there's other folks here like Art and others that have also dived into a lot of these things too. So Dave brought up a few things. I'm going to share screen. And if I share screen, James, will that take audio with it too?
There's a checkbox at the bottom, that says share sound. If you want audio.
Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna just for right now. And pull that one. Okay. So in essence, I'm kind of just going to pull things in and out of this other monitor. So and I see you guys all over there, which is great. I'll put in chat here because some of these things were brought up and it depends on your level of things, right? Like I did put together in the doc. And let me open up chat. I did put together in the doc. Let me get, or actually maybe, how do I get the chat once I'm like this? How do I open chat from here, from this view? Do you know?
You know, on the sharing toolbar, there should be a button to
Oh,
click the
okay.
chat.
There we go. Okay, and I'll drag that out of here. Bloop. Okay. So I'll just paste that in there for those. A lot of things were being kind of bandied around for terms. And some of them, like that idea of course, we've all heard, like AI, we've all heard of, and that breaks that down and an algorithm, which is that set of rules. And Lear brought this up, that machines can follow to learn tasks. And then in essence, and you'll hear like model a lot in this, like in essence, that's the broad term referring to the product in the AI training, the product of the AI training. So, and then the neural network is the whole computer system that's functioning like the human brain, although not like the human brain yet are we at for those kind of things. And then the training data, which in a lot of these cases with what we're thinking about AI generation, that's the data it's being trained on. For art, that's just, you know, art images and 3D models and things like that we're talking about. Before we get too deep into into that, I wanted to bring up, and Dave was talking about sound before, and I forgot a tool that I can put in here later on. But for generating voices, and this more of like not just your from a preset sort of set of determined voices, but you can even create voice libraries of yourself and others. Of course, the ethics of it all, it's very permission based, that you actually have to sort of you should have permission of whoever you're making a voice sort of mapping of for somebody. This is a tool that I've used for that, resemble.ai, and I have actually created a voice of myself. Granted, it still needs to be tweaked a bit better, but this is built off of me recording, training it by recording lots and lots of snippets of audio. So, and hopefully you guys can hear it. Hello there, testing this to see if we can figure out what might sound like if my voice was AI. The whole purpose of this is to create a useful way to take written thoughts and narrate them with a voice. And I think you guys heard it, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, and you can, I mean, you could like I can continue to train it, so I could actually do to what you brought up before, Dave. You can do a lot of things with styles, so you can record some passages that are kind of more happy or excited or sad, and you know, and I think I kind of had a much more kind of even tone when I was trying to read this and was sort of overthinking it, I think. So it's very kind of more, it almost emphasizes that computer generated element of it. So I sound a little bit more robotic than had I maybe talked a little bit more naturally.
I can't do that, Dave.
Yes, I can't do that, Dave. And Buffy, this is kind of for you and anybody else in Nonprofit Commons. I had even sort of set this up as a clip just as a funny thing for, I don't know, the days that my AI bot might run the meeting. Hello, and welcome to Nonprofit Commons. This week we have a great meeting scheduled and so happy you could join us. Not that I don't want to be there in person, but so I did want to bring that up just as a note to what Dave had put in. But back to the kind of 2D stuff of things. So in essence, that like modeling for those who are kind of newer to the AI side, like that's the creation of this decision making process. And Lear brought up a lot of that, like it's about making decisions, right? And the computer algorithm is basically doing that. So that first step is that they create that AI model, the algorithm, and then use this or layers of algorithms, like in a neural network sense, and then they're interpreting that data to make decisions based on that data.
Hey, Joyce, I just wanted to pop in here. We have 10 minutes left.
Sure.
9 minutes. Did you want to get to Midjourney?
Sure. Well, yeah, I'll get back on my path to here. And then basically you're training the AI models, I said, and then deploying it. So we talked a lot about prompts, which is another thing too. And Dave kind of brought this up, and so did Lear a bit. But in essence, they're what you're putting into that text box, right? So we're going to play in Midjourney, but I'm going to show you a couple of things during it too. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Discord, but I will, while I'm doing this, I will kind of move ahead so you can actually go to our Midjourney side of things. Our server, which is actually maybe below. Here we go. Just so that you guys can go there. I'll put this in chat. So that's that's at the Avicon server, and where you can find the Discord channel.
Which chat did that go into, Joyce?
Into the main chat of Skype. Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it.
Skype.
Oh, maybe I just sent it to Val.
Okay. Yeah.
That's funny. Well, Val, you're special. Okay.
That's true.
It is true. Yeah, so we have the prompts, and in essence it's a lot like recipe making in the end. You could be very simple and abstract. You can be like, I want to see, or you can be very concrete, like I want to see a cat riding a bicycle, right? And I've played with that a little bit, and you'll see. Or you could be very abstract, like show me sadness, and and it would give you that. And then you can kind of continue to prompt, create like sort of craft prompts that are adding extra things. So descriptive things, colors, what medium you want, styles, the quality, dimensions, and should those images be realistic or photographic, illustrative, computer graphics rendered, various other things like that. And I think the easiest way to learn too about prompts, and there's a bunch of other things that we have resources way at the end with prompt kind of libraries, but a lot too is to look at other folks' things that have generated things before, and you can kind of go from there. So
and you are Avatar Joy here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. And so yes, when that link to the Discord server, once you're in the Discord server, go down to, you'll see the Midjourney thing. So I wanted and at least get yourself situated there, and then we'll kind of meet there. The first thing I wanted to bring up too is on a more simpler base, is GPT-3 also has sort of the visual stuff to it, but its initial nature and is that sort of chat natural language model. And a lot of people, and I know during OSCC, Maria also talked about it, but ChatGPT is kind of the most recent thing where it's a web chat tool that allows you to create, text from prompts. You can create scripts, you could create dialogues between things, you could ask it, questions like I have it open on this thing. I could ask it, what important things to know about AI generated art, and it will come up with it while it works there for a second on the other side. And
it's
then
like AI Wikipedia.
Well, more like it, it's also been trained on natural language and conversational stuff. So and it might be, we'll have to see. I might have to reload that tab, or it's thinking, but sometimes, well, it'll catch up with itself.
I will publish in January on it, and I have already uploaded a little dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
Publication. I copy here. So if you go to the links that comes here on this page, you see a talk with this machine.
Yeah, and I've seen interesting conversations like that, and you can be as again, sort of same way that you can with visuals, you can be as abstract or direct as possible in your prompts. Let me just do this again so you guys can see it just happening. There we go. There we go. And so, it's giving our presentation for us right here on the side. I'll let that go while I keep talking, but and we can paste that in later, but it's giving us its own things to consider about AI generated art. So other things, I put in a few other models here that are for text, right? Like Magic Write, which is actually, many might be familiar with Canva, which is like a online image editing and creation program. Now they have Canva AI text, and also Go Charlie is another kind of one that's out there. So AI generated images, and you guys are in Midjourney, and the same thing, and I'll just sort of show a quick thing and then we'll kind of hop over to Midjourney. But let me move this down so I can.
Now, is DALL-E 2, is that available free yet, or?
You can use DALL-E. For a long time, it was sort of a waitlist only kind of thing. And DALL-E, is pretty powerful. I mean, they all have slightly different like business models where you can do some stuff for free, and then depending upon, like, DALL-E and Stable Diffusion have APIs, and DALL-E has like a service sort of thing that you can, for so much money, get even more time to do what you need. I threw in a prompt before when you were, and I'll put in the text chat here what my prompt is. It was just a general, and I didn't put in anything really style wise, so it's kind of coming up with just photographic stuff. So, but it's a good marker of like showing you what the difference is between each of these tools. So DALL-E, as we said, is one of the kind of older, deeper models of the AI generators. And in the doc, it'll tell you like how many, how much credit you have for free and those kind of things. And then if we pop over to Stable Diffusion, and Stable Diffusion, open source, yes, and you can see the difference. Like, even as we go, it's funny how they interpret things, right? Like, and obviously eyes are funny, limbs are funny, sometimes hands and can be can kind of be weird to it. Her hand is, I think, inside the cat.
Yeah.
And then
it's
this is
fur
Stable
she's wearing.
Yeah, this is Stable Diffusion, open source, which is great. So you can actually, it has the most diversity. It maybe is, if you compare them, like say Midjourney is great for like portraity face stuff, but Stable Diffusion and DALL-E are kind of more robust in what you try to do with them. And Stable Diffusion is great because you can plug into a lot of things. Like, a lot of people have made add-ons like what you were showing with Blender and some other things like that. You can also download Stable Diffusion, run it on your own machine, which is fantastic, right? And they do have, like, what I'm looking at here is they have their own kind of, like, you can type right into the chat, the text prompt here, and create right on their website. With, of course, some limited scenario of how much you could do that within there. But so this is like an example of what Stable Diffusion came up with. Night Cafe, which is another artistic one, another AI generator, and you can kind of see, here's that woman. I don't even know if she has a fully real face. And then this one sort of pulled more of a photo sort of thing. Though probably not too bad. She's wearing a beret.
Yeah.
I guess that's their interpretation of French in the scenario. And this is one that's a bit more on an artistic kind of vein. And then you had mentioned Crayon before, and I'll hop to that, and then we'll head to Midjourney. This is Crayon, which is kind of like a little mini version of DALL-E. And you can see there's definitely, and I don't know if this particular tool might be blurring things or it's just simpler. It's kind of an early version based off of early DALL-E. So it is not quite as pretty. Yeah. So in Midjourney, and while you're there, we can start playing with it. I will pull that prompt and I'll put it into Midjourney for you too. Where can I grab that from? Actually, I grabbed it right from chat here. And I would say in Midjourney, come up with whatever prompt you, so obviously they use Discord, as we brought up. Once in the channel, you can type in, and actually I'll just bring in Discord right to here. That way you can sort of see when I'm doing things live. And let me go over into the channel and into Midjourney. So, okay. And I'll make this full screen for right now. And yep, okay. So you can see some of the funny things that we were playing with at OSCC. But you should be able to, if you find, again, if you see my screen, you're in the Avicon server, scroll down till you see underneath around the metaverse category, Midjourney, click on that. And then making interacting, like making prompts within Midjourney is as simple as you type the slash and then imagine, and then you can hit enter and it'll give you a prompt box, and we can put that same prompt in. To go back and grab it.
That's the part right there that I always found confusing.
The fact that you have,
yeah.
I mean, I think that's just because they're working within the constraints of Discord, right? Some of the others, as you saw, there isn't that, you know, and let me grab this prompt here so we can sort of see what the difference is.
Yeah, there's usually like at the very top of that Midjourney, I think, or if you go to the Midjourney channel, there's a section where it gives instructions. That's because I always forget to type /imagine.
Yeah. So Midjourney is funny in the fact that its interface to interact with it is Discord. Like that's just the way that they do things. So you'll type in the prompt. I just copied what I had put before, and you can kind of see like, and I'll put in even another.
I assume you have an account there. You're a paid account.
I do currently.
Okay.
But others, you should be able to, like Midjourney, if you're a new user, you can just you get I think 25 images.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
25 free images.
But would I also be able to prompt, because I clicked on one of the buttons and I'm not sure if it was working?
Yeah, you should be. I mean,
everyone can use your account now.
Well, this isn't my account. No, sadly, it won't be
it's
that.
It's an Avacon account.
It ties it to you as an individual on Discord.
It basically uses, if you can get into the Discord server, into the channel, like you then are making that, like, because there's a bot running on our Discord server that is like almost like a connect point to.
Yeah.
Where is the prompt to the Discord channel? Because I have.
So are you in our Discord server? I think we put the link in.
I can try. If I just want to ask first, because I don't want to misuse your server. I have my own server, so
you can do alterations of other people's
absolutely. Yeah, feel free to.
Iterative.
I have my own, so it just.
So shall we end the instructional portion and just move into the play?
Well, yeah. I mean,
well, if you guys don't mind going a little longer, I think
I would like
some stuff to cover.
Yeah. So
is that a problem on the timing for the recording?
No.
Okay.
This is part of the demo.
Yeah. So you should be able to. Cat's Eye. I put the link again to Discord.
I got it.
And then scroll down, and you guys all come into this main channel where we can wave to everybody. Hello. But if you on the left hand side you'll see Discord, and if you all the various channels. If you scroll down, and you might have to click, like if for some reason this is closed, if you don't see anything here, open it up. Just click on Round the Metaverse, and you'll see Midjourney, and click in there. And then once you're in Midjourney, you should be able to
Midjourney bot.
Yep. So when you're in Midjourney, you'll have and I'll delete this so you can see what it looks like. You will yep. You and we can chat here too. So like if I say hi, it's just like any other Discord channel, right? But to test it, to create something, you type and you'll see when I type the / and then imagine, right? That's its prompt. And then if you can hit enter, and then it'll come up with this little box that says prompt. And then
like what you want to see.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to go something abstract. I can type in just a word. I can type in, and then it'll take some time. Well, Midjourney is not a bot per se. Midjourney, and actually let me open it up here so you see a little
bit.
Like
a plugin, isn't it, for Discord?
Well, yeah, it's Midjourney uses Discord as kind of as kind of its interface in a way, right? Like how people interface with it. But if you go to Midjourney's site, all right, it looks like that's my account. If I wasn't logged in, it would be a whole bunch of looking like funny texts. But I can probably go to the home.
Back to what you were asking about art. When you're typing things into our Discord, into that Midjourney section, it's showing you results there along with everybody else's. but it identifies you when it's actually putting it into your Midjourney. So when you go to the web page, you're seeing all your results there.
It's
that
my
you asked
account,
for.
just your channel now. I understand.
Correct.
Yeah, you're
correct.
just you're just doing that here. Yeah. And to be
Yes.
fair, in some ways, as confusing as this is, like starting off the other way, like if I log out of Midjourney on the website there, it actually will put you into a gigantic, like Midjourney has its own server, and there are like thousands of people in there. And it'll put you in a random generic channel.
Hard to find your stuff.
And hard to
yeah.
find your stuff and go back to that and everything. So, but they allow those who have Discord servers to kind of install the bot so that way people can play within that particular server. So we set it up as a nice sort of like more community place for us to play with Midjourney without having to go into the larger ecosystem of Midjourney's own Discord server. But you can kind of see, and again, it depends on like, make a Dalai Lama. Yeah.
A Dalai Lama is here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yes, a Dalai and a like this one is a like Dalai Lama. This one on the right.
Yeah.
Where is that? What?
Yeah. So you can see like if do you see the text box here at the bottom? Or my mouse?
Here down, yeah, message Midjourney.
Yeah.
Yes. Type a // and then the word imagine. So no space, just / imagine.
Or you could even click on imagine up above once you type the //
I typed it.
And then hit enter for a second, and then it'll put up a word that says prompt, and then in there type what you want to see. Type anything that you want to see.
This option is required, specify a value.
Yeah. Just you typed in / imagine and then hit enter.
Yeah, I did, and I got prompt.
Yep. So now type
now
in
you
what
gotta
you want to
fill in the
see.
prompt.
What would you like the image to be?
Oh, so I can just say whatever image I want.
Yep. Mhm.
You're creating with text.
Yes. So describe the
amazing.
thing you want to see at the bare minimum.
Cat on a lap.
Yeah,
POS
whatever.
Not accepted. Wait a minute.
Just type.
Yeah, just type and then hit enter.
I TOS'd and joined Midjourney. Okay.
Yep. And you'll see like you as Dave was saying.
Now I have to do it again, right?
Yeah, and then hit enter. Yeah. So / imagine, hit enter, get the little prompt thing, type what you want, and then hit enter.
Disappeared or something happened. Wait a minute. I was typing and then like weird.
And the U's were for upscale and V for variation. Was that it?
Yeah. So once it renders, once you type in your thing, right? This was that whole beautiful woman.
I'm viewing when I was starting to type, and then all these pictures showed up.
Well, that's okay. They will continue to do that. Don't worry. That has nothing to do with you. That like
but
basically
I can't find my typing spot.
it should be right at the bottom of the window. It doesn't go away.
You lost the box. It's red.
Yeah. So
you have to stay in the box.
Yeah, you have to stay in the box. Do not click outside the box.
How did I lose the box? It was
again /image.
Yes, type / image.
Okay. Well, I have to find a place to type
imagine. Sorry,
yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah, but I don't have a place to
enter.
I'm in home beta and show and tell.
You might have left the.
Yeah, you might have been.
You might not be in Midjourney anymore.
How did that? Okay, so
you might have clicked accidentally or something.
Yeah, you might have clicked one of the links off of somebody's thing, because like if you click somebody's like name, I think it'll send you to Midjourney, or sometimes it could send you other places like.
Yeah, I'm definitely
so go back to the chat.
On the top it says Midjourney.
Yeah, go back to the chat. Are you still? If you want, you could start back over again by going back to the link that was in Zoom, and then come back in here this way.
I have to because I'm not finding.
Yeah, and you can
and up at the top it says Midjourney, and there's an arrow down.
Does it look at what's like on my screen?
I think you're on the Midjourney Discord server. Not
I think you clicked off of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
the circle's on the far left side. You're on the wrong one.
Okay, I think I'm back.
Okay.
Okay.
Just hit back. Imagine.
/ imagine.
No.
/ imagine.
Enter.
Enter. And then type what you want to see.
The prompt box, so
and just type a word, anything. Once you do it once, I think it becomes a little bit more understandable.
Waiting to start.
Yes, yep. It'll take time. It takes time. Yes. It's not instantaneous. It's like that loading sort of thing, right?
Okay, Zoom just popped up with.
Yep.
You have
Yep.
it.
And see, here's your
Okay, I
here's your
got it.
thing right here. You can see it on my
I
screen
think
even
I'm
loading.
getting it.
Yep.
Yep,
Yep.
there's a cat.
Yep.
Cat.
You made
And
it.
so the other thing is like what Dave was saying is that you'll see under
Oh,
each
cool.
you'll see underneath each image that it does. There's a UI, U1, U1 through 4 and V1 through 4. Those you can, upscale. That's what the U means. So you could, and then 1 through 4 would be like reading from left to right, and then, top to bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
I see
And
that for other people, but I'm not seeing it
oh,
under.
yeah, you can see yours isn't done yet. That's right. See
Oh,
right
It's at
above it, it says
81.
81%. Now it should do that.
All right,
Once-
I get it.
Once
Okay.
it finishes it, you'll see like it'll timestamp it. So like, look, yours right here,
Oh.
right?
I got it.
Cute.
Okay, wow. Wow,
So-
it's a lot better.
So if you say,
You
okay,
can upscale it and frame
I
it.
like you say I like you 3. And the cool thing is because we're doing it in
I actually
Discord,
like you
A
too.
community,
so-
yeah.
yeah, because we're doing it together, like you can actually modify other people's things, right? Or upscale
Uh-huh.
them and modify them and continue to work from them. So that's, I think, something to kind of
I
note.
chose 2.
Yeah, it'll take a little bit to kind of
Oh,
upscale
there
it.
it goes. I
Yeah.
see.
So
And-
it works with another user on your account. Yeah.
Correct.
Yep. So I could
But
say,
you only charge for the ones that you make,
yeah,
not what somebody else plays off of yours.
yeah. So
Yeah, but now Kat is not a regular subscriber.
no,
So it's
She's
on,
in her-
on your account choice.
no, she's
No,
in her 15
she has a
users
free
trial.
account.
Yeah,
Ah, she's in 15 users trial. Okay. I
25,
understand.
whatever, 25.
Yeah,
Yeah.
25 users.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So like, but so
Yeah.
every action you to those just playing with it now, it can get
Okay.
very easy to keep making them, especially if you're on a free account, and
Yeah, yeah.
realize like you can
Run
just
out.
blow
Yeah.
through them very quickly.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And
That's why it helps to watch what
That's-
other folks do for a
That's
while.
why Juliet, your kiss made me just asking if she can still come, because she had her second live party for her closing, and so she could not come now, but now it's over. And I
Belle,
thought
yeah.
about,
100
okay,
is
if she comes
beautiful.
in and she can try, because she's running out of the 25, if she can try it here. If
yeah,
it
she certainly
works,
can try it here, but it won't give her any more
but
tries
it would
per
not
se.
go. Okay, then I
Yeah.
understand.
You chose
Yeah.
But she can
different
come in
one.
into the channel and like
Yeah.
see what
Mhm.
everybody else is doing. So
Or
yeah,
you can
and
pay for like, what was it, about $10 for a month?
$10 for a month, which is
Yeah.
like I forgot. how
Okay,
many
so
minutes.
then you can redo it if you don't like that.
Yeah, so you can variations will make variations of the image. It'll slightly change it up, right? Like so this image I upscaled of one of yours, the third kitty, right?
I saw that. I did.
Yep.
And that's not as large as it is. If you click on
Yeah,
that,
if you click
you'll
on
get
it,
a
you'll
larger
see it.
version.
You'll see it bigger, right?
And
So
see
you
the
it like
open
this.
original on the bottom? That's even bigger.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You can actually from here open up the
That'll take you to
original
the
and
web
it'll come
page.
up here, and I can, it's much bigger. Yeah. So and then make variations will make it'll make variations based off of this particular choice. Upscale till max will kind of upscale things.
So then I can choose the variation I like that.
Yeah, then you can continue to keep iterating on the image, right? You also can keep iterating on the image by your cat in a lap. Well, you're like, you know what? You can go back and you say, and let me start here. You can say, well, maybe I want, imagine an cat in on a lap, right? On a lap.
Give it art style.
Yeah, like maybe I want it
Oh,
to be
like somebody I like Van Gogh or.
Yeah, we could do Van Gogh.
Yeah, why not?
Well, let me. Yeah, hang on.
And I'll just show you. I have a lot more credits to play with here, so.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
And then like that would, and then you could keep going on that thing, like so you could be like, well, maybe I want it to be colorful, maybe I want it to be. You could change dimensions. Maybe I want it to be 16 by 9 versus square.
And the type of renderer too. You can use different.
Yep, you could do
renderers.
like I want it to look like it's 3D rendered, and
Mhm.
and sort of you can put that into the prompt. So there's a lot of I'm just gonna go in here for a second. I have a whole sort of section in the doc where it talks about various style databases, and some of them are very like some of them map out both for like Stable Diffusion and Midjourney. all the various like sort of artistic styles or style things or other aesthetic things that you could pull from. So you could click on kind of any.
Oh, I love it.
Yes,
Can I
yes.
click on U4?
Oh, that is nice.
Yeah. So look,
What's V4?
that means the version 4. So so if you look at this, you basically the top
Variations,
left
right?
is 1,
Okay.
and then the top right is 2, and the bottom left is 3, and the top and the bottom right is 4. And
Yeah,
then
I
so
got that.
variations would be, you know, making changes based off of that, like, you know, making variations.
Oh, I
and
see.
then
Yeah, I
upscaling
don't
it
wanna
would
do
kind
that.
of would make it a little bit better. So
Oh, and one thing is you're making artwork you really enjoy. You might want to try to capture some of the stuff, and you can do it on your webpage afterwards, but your process that you use to get there, because sometimes people like to see not only the finished work, but how you made it.
yeah. So I'm going to move Discord over for a second.
Wait a second. I did. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, because I know I'm gonna
U4.
come back to the screen here for a second to show you guys like my Discord. Oh, let me go back here. And actually it doesn't even somewhere along, I mean, not my Discord, my Midjourney, somewhere along the line, it stopped. Like the most oldest versions of things that I had, like the Midjourney 1 images are not even here anymore. Like I think they hid them away because they were so horrible. Like, you know what I mean? Where like people were like, oh, you know, distorted and mushed together. And so these are more, if you look at the screen, this is kind of just a backward scroll of some of the stuff that I've been playing with over time. So even these aren't even the earliest ones. These are kind of more, I'll put it here for a second. Like these are a couple of the much earlier ones, and you can sort of see where there's like artifacts, and there's even worse than this in the beginning, but I couldn't find those. But you can kind of see how it leaves weird artifacts, and there isn't with this one, but like hands and arms would all mush together.
It doesn't
and
look like mine's not. I did it on yours, so maybe it's just not doing it.
and
I upscaled on yours.
Yeah, you should. It just takes a little bit. Takes a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's a little confusing which one's yours. It's like you're in a line at a grocery store, but you're not sure which card is yours.
Yeah. Your key is like
it appeared for a minute. There we go.
And while we're all doing it, I just pushed in here is you'll see remix by. So a remix means you're doing somebody else's, right?
Okay.
Like, or you're playing with somebody like this is one particular person. LV is here, Lori Vaughn, right? There's you, Cat's Eye.
God,
right?
I love that picture of Van Gogh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? You can kind of see who's playing with, like James is playing with these like these particular people over here. So that's a way, and things will take time, right? Like it tells you how, you know, how fast it's rendering and what
I
percentage
want
it
to go
is.
look at what Val was.
So if you look at my shared screen though, like you could play with, like, I mean, I've been kind of playing with a lot of like kind of archetypal goddessy type images for a while, but you can also make repeated textures, right? So you want a new tile and
you
open
can
simulator
create your
Second
own
Life.
texture. Can you upload them to Second Life?
Yeah, you can right click and save image as, and there you go, right?
But if you have a free Discord thing, then you can't make very many, right?
Yes. Yeah, so you can kind of see. Yeah, you can sort of see, depending upon the influence of things, what, you know. And I kind of make a lot of it because, you know, this is what like paid account, like I make lots of variations and iterations to sort of see the little minute differences. And if you mouse over them, you can kind of see the prompts, right? So it'll tell you, okay, this I used beta upscale, and this was my prompts for Frida Kahlo, style of Arthur Rackham, Octane render. So I actually am mixing kind of disjoined things like, you know, 1890s children's book illustration and high-end computer engine rendering, like a game engine rendering, right?
Cool.
To like make this like, you know, weird styles, and you can kind of play around with things like that, right?
That's cool.
And again, kind of more of those things. This was like a woman with parrots, and you could see like it was like, what?
That looks like you.
Wow, I like that.
And more playing around with things, you know, arms and hands and feet and legs and quadrupeds if you're doing animals, like limbs. It kind of
did Duran knitting a sweater.
Yeah. And this is like just like Nosferatu. That's like all I was playing with, just, you know, this was like my my Halloween period of time. And the Vampire Lestat for anybody who reads Anne Rice. And then did a whole day of Day of the Dead, kind of playing around with that.
Looks
And
a little like you too.
well, but
Yeah.
these aren't influenced by me, right?
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I guess you could say the human in you chooses which images to kind of continue to keep rendering, right? And you can get like, I don't know if I yeah, that's just colorful.
So
This-
AI art doesn't really happen without human input.
Well, it can, but not in this
Yeah.
case, right?
Yeah.
Like you could, I mean, in these AI generated services, the prompts are human input, basically, right?
Yeah, it's only the ones that are self-aware that are making their own art.
Mm.
And there are, but that's not something with, I mean, this kind of opens up that too. And you could sort of see again.
The ratio, the AR command was not put right in this posting, this prompt.
In which one?
Oh, that is
In a few of them. In a few of them. I think you always get a square. I
had some before.
A ratio command, and it was
the
not
problem
the right
is
way.
Once they changed when they changed the newer model, the newest Stable Diffusion 4, they kind of did away with some of those. Like I have these here. It is that case,
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. But later on, they've kind of broken. I don't know if it's back, but they broke some of the ratio stuff with the fourth render. And the other thing we didn't talk about, and Lear sort of showed it, but we didn't talk about it, is you can also use an image as part of your prompt to sort of start, just like when Dave was using, those prim objects or 3D objects that might have been a thing become also influencers. They become part of the prompt. You can also use images, right? So these were based off of my avatar image that then it modified based off of the style,
that would be fun.
the Klimt version of myself, and this sort of really, really weirdly figured, but
I love that Klimt one.
Yeah, and this was based off of a photo where it's funny, I had my hands up, so it's like steampunk Joyce. And I started to play around with, I had an image that had multiple images collaged of myself together. And so kind of all of these are takes off of that. So these should look a little bit more like me, because the photo this was the photo, and it shows you down here. When you're looking on your profile or looking on the public feed of Midjourney at other people's images, you can kind of see not only just the style, right? So I didn't give it much more than a style, because I was starting with this photo, right? Which is many images of me in various things.
I like them.
And it just to sort of see, since it had so many faces, and then and I also, there were further iterations before it that then I would then worked off of. So you can kind of see the path you get to, so again, my image along with that style of Muka and modifying off another one kind of keeps furthering the art.
But every time I do an upgrade or whatever,
upscale
as upscale, does that count against?
Yes, absolutely. It goes quickly. So these again are also taking those same images of myself, but then furthering the style by making a secondary upscaling or iteration from them. So they're kind of influenced a little bit by the way maybe I might be looking in some ways, but these are all also based off of that same series of my image along with some prompts. I love the Edward Gorey one, right? Me with a mustache and chopsticks on my head. I don't know who's eating my hair, but and then so and then you get the
AI has a sense of humor too, huh?
Yeah. So you can kind of see playing around with those sort of things, and I'll sort of
yeah, she has an interesting sense of
and this was another one that I think you've seen on the Facebook profile, where I used an image of myself, this one, and then from there
that is
came
really nice.
Came up
Wouldn't
with
it be nice
these.
if you could create your avatar from here? I mean, God, that would
I bet at some point there will
maybe in the
Dave,
future.
Dave was talking about if there was a good you know, T-pose version of this, right? Like then maybe yes, right? You could, but it still would be probably
coming.
it
Yeah.
still would
Well,
probably be rough.
one thing and we're not going to do it because of time today, I think, but one thing that would have been really cool is in the future, if we can get to the point where you can create AI art inside the virtual world. I mean, doing it from inside the metaverse would be really awesome. But I don't know of any technologies that are at that level yet. Somebody has to code the integration inside like OpenSim or SL to make that feasible.
Calling brilliant SLer.
The last thing I want to show is Astria, which in and of itself can also generate, and the link is in here, this whole diving deeper. And anybody who really wants to sort of like how do you take, and this is using Stable Diffusion, how do you take something like Stable Diffusion if you're going to run it on your own thing, like this sort of thing, like, well, we're all working within the trained model, like, you know, Midjourney has its own model. We're just adding prompts that are then, you know, and we can influence it by our prompts also having images to look a little more like we want it, but we're not really retraining it, right? Like it's, the model is the way it is. But what if you did want to like kind of add to the model? So Astria, besides the fact that you can just play with it, you can kind of upload a series of 10 to 30 images. And then you can name that as that particular thing as a certain call, right? Like this is this particular subject, and it could be an object, an animal, a person, those kind of things. And then you can start to use that thing that you've trained in your prompts. And Astria is built off of Stable Diffusion, so not only can you use it, you can actually download, once you've trained this little model, you can download Stable Diffusion with your new model as part of it and run it on your machine and keep doing it. So this particular thing,
So how much does it cost to join Astria?
I think it's like a per service scenario. So like if you wanted to, and how do I move this silly thing? I hate this silly thing. If you wanted to, it's like a flat fee to do this for one set of images.
It says try it now, but it doesn't say anything.
Yeah. So this was, and caveat, I did not set this up. My other half, who is a computer science programmer, AI person, did. So he took a bunch of images from various photos of myself and created its own little model in Astria, of course, which is based off of Stable Diffusion. And then from there is something I can prompt. So these are images that once it was in the system, I can prompt it to sort of, you know, do whatever. So he played around with a little bit in the beginning. So a lot of the ones in the beginning were him testing it, but this is from a whole series of photos of myself. So in some ways it's like, you know, using me as like a way to train the model, and various things you could sort of see. And this is, again, what is using Stable Diffusion, so different than Midjourney. You could see based off of different things, like different styles, right? Yeah, some of them are very funny. Again, like in all AI generated art, hands and art, like look at this pinup, like
girl, yeah.
Like I mean, like I don't know, where's there's legs, where there's arms, with arms and legs. I don't like it's
3
you
legs.
know, yes, and legs. Let me actually like reload this from the top.
Some of them really capture your real life.
Yeah, some of them more than others. And let me.
That's pretty far.
And it seemed to evolve over
look,
time
you
as we're
aged
going
you.
down too.
What'd you say?
Where you purposely aged yourself?
Oh, well, it did. I
Okay.
didn't.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Though you could ask for, you know, you could put that in the prompts, right? And, you know, some are a bit more photorealistic. Like in this one, I was looking for SKS woman is the tag for me. So in the prompt, as long as I'm calling that, it's going to call me as that model. So these are Game of Thrones sort of inspired things. These are, you know, you know, you can kind of play around with it. You could see like this was an image of like me and a cat. A little weird, but you can kind of see how it plays around with it. You could, some of them like this, you could see the kind of game rendered almost. Then others are a little bit more. Some like this. Some are very like
photorealism.
Yeah, because I can see, because they're based off of a series of photos that you upload, like it's kind of pulling those for some of the poses and the looks and the eyes and where things are. So I can kind of almost see sometimes like, oh, this particular way that the character is positioned, I know kind of what photo that probably got pulled from, you know?
Tron. Yeah.
Yeah, Tron. Yeah, I was kind of playing around with that. It's like Wonder Woman.
Wonder Joyce.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, and this is back to the
Yeah, I
Frida.
love that.
I look very angry. And this one like is like an animated version, you know. It's
I
like
don't
this
think
is why
I
I was
Frida. Joyce as Frida.
yeah. So, you know, in some ways it gets to that you know, oh yes, very funny, me in a field of chickens, which it doesn't understand. Putting that many objects in one render, it kind of doesn't, it's like they start to get crazy, and they're all like the same chicken, and some of them have like weird appendages, and so you can kind of see, you know, different styles, again using the same thing. And then Klimt.
Definitely want to do a self-portrait with Klimt.
Yeah. So, you know, and this seems weird because it's
there's a
all me,
Klimt
but it's
here.
just because it's pulling me now as this part is model. I could probably, let me grab that prompt again. We could probably grab it from over here.
See, I was thinking it'd be great to use this to, you know, instead of hiring an illustrator, create your own art for your books.
Oh,
you know?
but that makes me sad. But yes, but there's a lot to be said of that too, you know. There's a lot to be said for that.
Are there restrictions on using it for commercial work?
In Stable Diffusion, no. Stable Diffusion is open source. You can be whatever. Even, and there's a lot of that too. Like while Astria's sort of calculating things, there's a whole lot of references. And again, I have instructions here from my other half, Mike, who kind of put down his process of if you want to play with Astria and make your own model and download Stable Diffusion and, you know, run it in that on your own machine. So you could make Art Blue, you could load in pictures of Art Blue, and suddenly now you have a model that Art Blue is always Art Blue, or of whatever, right? As an example of using this kind of way. So that is in here, like the step-by-steps on that, including a little bit of code. And then down below, we have lots and lots of resources, and there's lots to think about. And I know we had kind of wanted a discussion part of this too at some point. And we even have in here, like the little assignment, as Dave said, there's like all the images that you guys have been creating in Midjourney. Like if you want to bring them in World, he set up that little area. There's like a little gallery space in the sandbox area, and we could kind of create a little impromptu like exhibition of these things
into OSCC.
In the
OSCC
sandbox.
Sandbox. Yeah.
And let me load Astria to see if it's caught up with us. Yes. Oh, so that same prompt I had before with the woman in red at the cafe, and here's me.
There? Oh,
there you go. Me as the woman.
Your cat's gonna get jealous.
Yeah, but so you can sort of see based off of that.
Somehow I got out of
Zoom.
No, Discord's
This cat is crazy. Look at this one here. First off, it's huge, and look at those eyes. Okay.
Yeah. How do I get back to what's it called? The channel?
Zoom?
Nope, I'm in
Discord.
Oh, Discord. Yeah, it should be on your, if you're on a PC, there should be icons at the bottom, and you should see the one for Discord. It looks like a little, almost like a game
No,
controller.
I'm in Discord. I just can't find the.
Yeah, you would.
Multiverse or something. What was the sections in?
Yeah, it's under around the metaverse. It's in the Avacon server.
Yeah.
Scroll down and
go to Avacon.
Yeah. So
I'm in Avacon.
And then scroll down till you see Midjourney.
I think she keeps getting taken to the.
You keep probably clicking outside to Midjourney.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So this sort of shows you that same prompt based off of the model, the Stable Diffusion base, trained off of a little bit more of the model that has all these images of me, and now suddenly I can be that woman versus generic woman, right? Or anybody else that you wanted to share in that thing. And of course, mileage varies, right? Like, and
I can't find my cat anymore.
Oh, you have to scroll up you're going to have to scroll up in the thing and just try not to click on anything. I think that
found the variation.
Yeah.
And then there's the ethical considerations here too. What if her real cat sues her because she sees her in a picture with that cat?
Well, there's I mean, at least, I mean, actually, in this way, it's a little less like using myself as a model is probably less problematic. I mean, more problematic if I were to release it, I would care about it. And there are, but there's lots of talk in those links, the links that are in the document here.
Yeah.
The resources, there's lots of that stuff. I mean, one of the particular ones, which I think I have it up here, right? This particular artist, right? Greg Rufkowski, like him and others, right? Like there's certain people that are on some of the very popular kind of internet art sort of portfolio or sharing sites. And they're also, because like the models are being trained on all this art and the fact that people can then also bring in images, and there's no qualms that some reference image can't be somebody else's. They don't have that set up yet in the scope of things. But between those things, there are certain artists that are bothered that their art is being used without their own permission to first train the models, and also that it's watering down their own art style or their own art, recognition, because now there's lots and lots of their kind of,
I think the consequences of AI art would have to be another workshop.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things in here, but that definitely there's some of that stuff that gets into that, that for further reading on your own, like that you could definitely go down the
we
deep
could
end.
easily
So
have
I
done
can
2 workshops
save
on
my,
this.
I can save this Van Gogh image that you and I sort of.
Yep, right click
Yeah.
on it and just download it.
But yeah, if you click on it a couple times, you go to you want to open the original on the web page. That'll give you the biggest one.
Okay.
And there's a lot of folks, again, like that whole worries about like IP and
Deep
copyright
fakes, yeah.
and deep fakes, porn, right? I mean, granted, it's anatomy is not its strongest suit yet in a lot of AI generated art, but that'll change.
You want to mention that legal thing that recently happened?
Yeah, so I have a doc too that there's even there's a bunch of cases that are starting to kind of things like some of you might know of, like, and this is kind of more broadly affecting not just AI art, but like there was a recent Warhol case that was sort of settled where the photographer who originally took some photos of Warhol that then those photos were or took these photos of Prince, I should say. That's what it was started. They took a photo of Prince, and then this particular photographer, and then the Warhol Foundation or whatever, they kind of made copies in the Warhol style of Prince, and in their world they were like, well, but it's fair use. We're iterating off of that. It's okay, which is very Warhol in its own way, right? That the Warhol Foundation was doing that, but then the photographer was like, and they were also sort of selling it and making money from it. But then the photographer's like, but I was the source of this. So there was a case, and it actually kind of went up to the Supreme Court, and they said, yep, the photographer should have rights to this too. And so, which really kind of plays with that whole what is fair use, there's that will be definitely worked out, and the AI art stuff is definitely poking at that whole what is fair use. And then so this particular thing, this article is in there too, AI generated intellectual property disputes, and it brings up various cases that kind of relate to it, like copyright. There's some that there's some rulings that that the Copyright Office will not copyright, that an AI can't copyright art. But then there are other things, but so they won't let the AI copyright.
How do I get
art.
out of the open original?
But then you just click off
The
to
web
the side.
page. You just close out of the web page.
Yeah, and then but there's a whole, and I have it done. There's a whole like other link where we have like there's a publishing company that people are making AI generated, sort of in the same process that Dave was using all these various tools. They're using all these tools to make AI generated comics and publishing them, and somebody copyrighted them and they put out a copyright for that work, right? Like they allowed for that to happen. So there's a lot of gray area going on all this stuff. So and if you want to, and there's a whole section in this too on AI art, besides the ethics, the whole concerns of various kind of like articles based off of the art side of things and their concerns with AI art and the art making process. And my kind of final thing, if you've got some time at some point, and the Dave McKeon, which many of you may know, like he He's an illustrator who did a lot of the whole Sandman comics and stuff, and very, very distinct style of what he does for art. And they interviewed him, and he actually even created, sort of similar to you, Art Blue, he even created a book after he sort of dived into the AI art, with a discussion with him and an AI, and with some stuff that was modified with Midjourney, in his sort of tensions about his tensions of like, you know, AI art and what that means. And in his kind of point of view, maybe somewhere a little closer to what Julieta was bringing up in OSCC, like he kind of almost worries about sort of the future of what this means for people and creation, and that process of what that means. And, you know, so it's an interesting interview. And that's in the links too.
In some ways, it's kind of a parallel, if you think about it, to like the freebies in the marketplace. You could flood the marketplace with so many freebies that it could make it hard for the good creators to be able to compete. And the same thing when it comes to AI generating art. If there's so much of it out there that it saturates the market so much, it could get to the point where it's hard for the regular artists to compete.
Yeah. I mean, there's that. I mean, I think they were even kind of going deeper in the discussion too about sort of, like there's like what Julieta was like, what's sort of what constitutes kind of like, you know, art, and the process thereof of art. So like, if somebody's like, well, okay, I'll play around with some AI, and you're not like, at this point, we're not there. Like, you know, we don't have it's not like we have a neural connection to like our own brain connection to it. So it's still only as good as our prompts are. It's not like if you envision something in your head that it is actually it's sort of, you know, playing around with the prompts and what the strengths of the particular model, you know, and tool you're working with. The limitations of that. And they're kind of even worrying that it may limit, like, oh, well, if you can do this, then maybe it limits like that sort of, for some folks that becomes enough that they don't go down that path to deeper creation. Like what kind of deeper creative processes are lost in the interim, you know, or could be lost.
Joy to the world. I love that. That's
yeah,
beautiful.
that is, yeah, that is a stranger did that. So I don't know if there's anything else that people have questions out. It's so deep. It
really is.
Yeah, but this Midjourney channel is always here in the Discord server of Avacon, so feel free to use it. It's a kind of a less, I mean, to be fair, once you start interacting in a channel with Midjourney, it does, when you go to direct messages, suddenly now you have Midjourney, and let me find it. You have the Midjourney bot as a contact, and you can actually just, if you want to play with things privately, like, you know, I have a whole set of things that I'm working on that are just sitting here, and they're more in the private, like without anybody else doing it with you. And sometimes that's a little easier if you're working on something that you don't want to get confused on what your iteration is or other iteration.
How many do you get when you're free? When you're a free
25.
25.
Yeah.
So if I go into Midjourney and play with something and make 25 iterations, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, even in the original prompts too, right? You know, yes.
But I like to speak up here because we demonstrated quite a few tools, and you could take that image and bring it in. Like I used mine in Stable Diffusion. I think it gave you like 200 or 400 images. See?
Yep.
And then you also have settings where you can increase the fidelity, how close it is to the original. Ooh, that's bright, Joyce. And then, so I took my work from tool to tool to tool, playing with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a good way to kind of go across the board.
Opportunities in one.
Yeah. So you can use those other particular tools that we brought up. So DALL-E, this is that whole cat in the style of Van Gogh. I just put that in there, you know, and then, you know, you can kind of run across, you know, you can kind of run across all the tools and do that sort of thing, you know, if you wanted to.
Some of the other tools have more steps and more control, more, you know, You can have longer prompts. You can have even the negative. That's what Sun was showing. The things you don't want to see in your image.
Oh, cool.
See, that's good too. And that was in Blender. You notice he typed that, but that's the same product that I used at that link. If you go to dreamstudio.ai, that's Stable Diffusion also.
Yes.
Same as the Blender one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking
Right
of
here.
things
Whoops.
that you don't want to see in your image, just to let you know, there were some restrictions now with things that are considered not safe for work, because they didn't want this to just become a porn engine. So you might encounter restrictions, and sometimes maybe it doesn't make sense, but there are some restrictions in there when it comes to NSFW, they call it.
Yeah. Yep. And
That
and
brought
I
up
know
another thought. You know, in Stable Diffusion, if you create something that's blurred or blurred intentionally because of a legal reason, perhaps, they don't charge you for that. They'll pop up a little note saying, this didn't count against your free images. Sorry there, Joyce.
Yeah.
Back to you.
And the other thing that like DALL-E can do versus the others is you can actually like bring in an image and continue the image, right? Like you can actually make a whole mural if you wanted to. You're like, okay, this is great, right? There's a cat in a lap here, but what's the rest of this person look like, right? Like you could load it in and it would paint around it and increase it and that kind of thing, right? So you can actually kind of the DALL-E at least is like kind of neat in that way. You can also fix things, or you can remove. You're like, I don't like this face. Well, I'll rerun it again with a different face and it'll change it. It'll know that's a so you can kind of see what these other things do, but this is the Stable
And they each
Diffusion
have
here.
different numbers of free iterations.
Yeah, and I put some of that in there as well. The one last little funny thing I wanted to bring up, and this is kind of back to that whole Chat GPT 3, and you might like this, Lear, and the link, let me put that here, is so in that Chat GPT, which is just like I had put these prompts in before about tells a little bit about AI generated art. You can also get it to like write scripts or summaries or code, right? And my other half asked it to write him a game in JavaScript that was based on Pac-Man, and it came up with this little guy. Very simple. It's interpretation of what it thinks Pac-Man are, and there's these little, the red, the pink, and the purple are the little presumably ghost things, and you are the yellow thing. And if you move yourself, and movement is very weird, right? Like, because you can count off the screen. It's very simple, but it is indeed, a little game interface. And if you hit a ghost, you die. And it doesn't. It's just at its simple base, but it actually wrote working JavaScript code to like make this, and he just put it on the website just so to show it off.
Now if we could just get the AI to read bug reports too.
Yeah. And I had done this for myself too before too. You can even, like, back to like the presentation, you can even ask AI what the problems are with AI, but the potential problems with AI. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else that people have questions on. We're kind of way
Are these
over.
all going to be saved? Thing you gave us.
Yeah.
The doc that we shared has all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can pull the
download
text if
it.
we care about this, what the Chat GPT is making.
Plus, if you go in World, there's a text version along with the link to the Word document on Google Drive as well. It's all inside. I can share a screen on that if you want to see where it's at.
Oops.
Oh, that last one, number 5. I've been worried about that when I first heard
Yeah,
about it.
I also want to caution that just because it comes up with text, it's based off its model. It may not be making quite always the right relationships between things, right? That's like kind of what, the human brain is still much better at it than it. So it may pull things that may seem like they completely should fit, but it's like it may. So do not take any of these things as like perfect truth, right? So yes, he could make that little game that functionally made in JavaScript, but like you still would have to, like, just like any good, as Val might say, any good librarian, you'd have to like check your sources that like what it actually is bringing back to you is real.
Yeah.
It's true.
They should try the AI poetry sometimes. It does some pretty weird stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yes, you can,
All right.
I made one before for Open Simulator Conference, but you know.
So it's gonna get even harder to figure out that something is a false news.
Yeah, certainly. Yes. And there's some of that too in those lists of links. Like, you know, there's like that idea that, things like, you know, just mistakes and misinformation and all that other stuff. Yes, you can craft images, that whole concept of it. And AI will only get better.
It'll blur the line between the real and the unreal.
Yeah. And that can be problematic. I mean, we've already dealt with things like deep fakes, and there's an article kind of in there too that has a bit of that, talking about all those things in AI art. This is the Canva thing where Canva has it now directly for those. Canva's more like you can say magic, right, and you can tell it like,
Oh, and James, are we running close to a limit on our recording?
Don't know. Haven't run this far before.
No.
Okay.
There's
I
no
didn't know if
limit.
Zoom had
I hold
threshold.
classes for 3
except for
hours in
us.
Zoom. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure.
If you go over 40 minutes and you can go for all day. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But we're not going to do that to James.
No, we're not going to do that to James nor to
we're
us.
We're challenging the in-world review.
Are we?
Oh, okay.
See?
I see what you mean. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Oh, going long. I thought it was coming up tonight and you had to get to it.
No, you can go a long time. The video winds up being unwieldy, so I usually stop and start the video several times during a long segment.
Depends who has to wield it, I think.
And
you can edit it, but I'm lazy.
And this shows you the difference between like where Midjourney's rendering model is now versus this was like either 1.5 or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Looking a lot more like
and it's exactly the same prompt, just like, months later. So
it would really be interesting though to understand where it's getting all of its data from, because
they're training it on lots of images.
When I explained about AI art, that's one of the things I hear a lot is, well, where's the data coming from? Where's because they don't trust it for one. It's like AI could possibly make something interesting to look at. That's kind of the reaction you get.
Yeah. And there is some of this, like how it works in this. There's another article in here about the art related stuff, like, is there borrowed or stolen, and the whole, I love how they bring up Marcel Duchamp. Like, if it was okay for Duchamp, it's okay for us, right?
Does anyone have any questions? I noticed we're just down to a handful. We want to make sure.
I think
if
we can finish up if anybody doesn't have questions.
Yeah, let me show one last thing if I could, Joyce, before we wrap. Okay. You can stop screen share and I'll do a really brief one.
Are we still on recording? Yeah, okay.
Am I screen sharing or no? I don't think I am.
I see your video, but
share screen. Multiple participants. One participant can share at a time.
You click the up arrow, but you should click the big button.
There we go. Well, it wasn't doing anything when I first clicked it. So, okay. And I don't need sound on it. So, all right. So just to show you, is everybody seeing my open simulator?
Yep.
Map view. Okay. Yep. So this is OSCC. On the very far right here, we have the sandbox, which is where I'm at. Okay, when you land here, right next to it is the art of artificial intelligence. So if you could, when you get a chance, play with the AI art stuff that we showed you today. I put together a few of my artworks over here near Lear. So just to show some of my work, if you want to put something out, that I just took a picture of my avatar for my main one that I have in virtual, so that you know who it was. But whatever you want to do to identify it's you, that would help. But we can also click on them to figure that out. But just put your artwork out, let's see what you got. And then we have here, if you click on this is the handouts from the class.
Oh.
And then this gives you the pictures of some of the stuff from Lear. There's also a history of AI, this is the actual lesson plan, the art of artificial intelligence, which has a link to that Word document. So if you didn't get the document on Google Drive, your link for it is right there. Okay, so if I say bye, and then I come into my thing, go to recent.
Yep.
These are the handouts. I go to the lesson right here, and you can see right here is the link on the fourth line down or whatever,
Yeah.
And that's the one that'll get you to the. Oh, excuse me. That's the one for the conference. The document is right here.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, so you've got it right there. So we wanted to make sure that when you walk away from the class, you got stuff to work with, because we know sometimes that's a little difficult. So we gave it to you online, but we also gave it to you in World.
Hey, Joey, your screen is so different to mine. Mine is a bright peach with a sunset. And then earlier, this was all glowing white and you couldn't see any objects in it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a matter of your settings, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I'm on day cycle base. That's probably what it is which cycle or which thing you're on. And that's all I got.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
It was very interesting.
That's a lot. Thank you. It's wonderful.
And I know, Art Blue, you've been diving in deeper to Midjourney.
Yeah, sure. For me, it was very interesting that there are such a lot of software packages competing for our attention, that we spend time with them, that we work with them, and then they do stay constantly in competition to each other. So it is a question, what systems will make it to go forward and forward and forward, and how we will use them as humans, because we have limited time, and how to trigger our emotions. And I learned again that Cat's Eye was so personally affected by the success of the nice cat coming on screen. Yeah, so the emotional empathy with the technology is the key for success in those fields of systems, because on our limited time, we have to decide what software we want to learn, what software we want to learn, the parameters, the time spending, an hour, 2 hours, 10 hours. Yeah, so it has to trigger our emotion and then, okay, I take it all away. I go this and I go deeper with this. Yeah. All the systems have a depth. They can do much more than we see, because we have not the time for them. Yeah,
they
go deeper and deeper. They can do everything. More or less, every system can do everything in great quality. Yeah, but we don't reach it because we don't spend the time for it. So we go through something who triggers our emotion, that we say, oh yes, this is it, what I want to show, or what I want to have, or what I smile on it. And this is the key for developing systems, that they get this audience, and then we know the system. Before, we don't know it, you just hear about it.
Yeah.
And this was really what I profit today, that such a lot of systems are in competition to each other, and it will be fascinating to see the next step, which I have now, let's say, proposed, or whatever the English word is, at the end of the conference, that we need an AI, a system that helps us to find our own path, to say, Art Blue or Joyce or whoever, everyone is different. Look at this tool. This is exactly what fits for you.
Yeah, like a personalized learning.
Yes, a personalizer, to say, this is your thinking style. I know exactly what art you like and where you want to go. So take this tool, and to a different person, the AI says, oh, go this way. So this is the next step, that we need helpers like the owl on my shoulder in Second Life. It's
Yeah,
an AI. It's not an AI. It's just a fake, of course. Yeah, but I can project the question to this persona and say, "Help me to navigate in this universe because I can't do it. My brain is not fast enough. Yeah." Fast enough. My brain is not fast enough. And so that was very good today that I got a lot of impulse, what tools I can test and how it can change my view. Well, thank you a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, no, there's certainly all the stuff in that doc. There's no way that any one of us could dive into all of them. As you said, there's just not enough time.
And some of it might go away tomorrow. You never know, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's that too. Tools and how they disappear. I mean, I think, and they all kind of have their own little bits of strength and stuff. Like, Midjourney can make very convincing faces very quickly, at least in an artistic, like a illustrative-y style. Like the Night Cafe one is a bit more kind of, I think, about environments and spaces and more that artistic on that side. And I mean, DALL-E and Stable Diffusion can go deeper. Maybe they're not as good at making faces in a lot of ways as Midjourney is right now. I think they've put a lot on, and maybe that is that human connection to seeing a face, right? Like that they're really playing on, but they've really put a lot of emphasis on very convincing faces, as you saw in those differences of what that green Tara Buddha looked like, in an earlier, much earlier version. And that's not even the first version. It was horrible. I wish I'd still had one of those images. And more recently in the now, right? They've literally put a lot, like that's just the evolution of their model that they're continuing to keep training that. So, but yeah, I think, you have to pick. I mean, obviously I think Midjourney and Night Cafe and that mini DALL-E are kind of simpler to interact with, and for any others that once you run out of credit, if you're looking at like, I want to use a free tool, once you run out of credits, go to those. I mean, certainly, even Stable Diffusion, you can get so much time on it, but all of those you can, with your free credits, just try them and play with them and see what works, see what makes sense for you.